Lately, a lot of people have asked me if I'm aware of the rumored Nintendo Direct happening possibly at the end of next week, potentially the 28th or possibly the 27th, mattering to like Japanese time zones and stuff. Yes, I am aware of these rumors. So with that said, I figured it might be fun to speculate about what we could potentially get in this rumored Nintendo Direct. Obviously, I always like to speculate about Super Smash Bros. Stuff, but today I thought I'd switch things up, and I want to specifically speculate about another game series, The Legend of Zelda. I am a huge Legend of Zelda fan. I have a giant collection of Zelda stuff. I don't often collect sealed in-box games, but the few I actually have are Zelda games. Despite being known for wanting Geno in Super Smash Bros., Super Mario RPG actually isn't my favorite video game of all time. My favorite game is Ocarina of Time, a Legend of Zelda game. Recently, we keep having Zelda stuff pop up as rumors. We had some Zelda trademarks possibly show up in preparation of Zelda's 35th anniversary. We also had some mysterious listings for Skyward Sword for the Nintendo Switch show up on Amazon's UK page. There was also a less likely to be true listing for a Breath of the Wild 2 Collector's Edition show up on a French retailer's site before being taken down. We even have a bunch of Zelda amiibo reprints coming in the very near future. So with these rumors about a potential Nintendo Direct happening at the end of next week, people are wondering if we may finally see some more information about Breath of the Wild 2. I absolutely adored the first game. I have hundreds of hours logged into it. I've beaten all the shrines, got the Master Cycle 0, and I have all of the amiibo outfits to the point where I have to buy them back from this guy because my inventory doesn't fit them all. That honestly always kind of bugged me that they didn't give you enough inventory space for all of the outfits. It's fairly rare for a Zelda game to get a direct sequel, but that's exactly what we're getting for Breath of the Wild, and I am super excited. At last year's E3, we got our first and only look at this Breath of the Wild sequel. It was just a short trailer, and it's now over a year later, and we haven't seen anything else for this game. We didn't have an E3 this year, but with these rumors of a possible Nintendo Direct next week, we could finally see some more for this game. If they plan to show something off at E3 this year before it was canceled, this might be when we finally get to see some more of Breath of the Wild 2. So I'm going to structure this video into 3 separate parts. The first part, I'm just going to talk about what official information we know about Breath of the Wild 2. Next, I want to go over what rumors I've personally heard about this game. There are 4 pieces of information, 4 rumors I've heard for Breath of the Wild 2. Please do just take them as rumors, however. I'm not certain of them, but I'm going to share with you the 4 rumors I've heard over the last year from fairly credible sources about Breath of the Wild 2. Again, take them as rumors only, but I am filtering which pieces of info I think could actually be legit based on where I'm hearing them from. I'll also be listing them in the order of how credible the source they are coming from actually is. And then the final part of this video is going to be speculating based on all that information and those 4 rumors that I've heard. Okay, so let's go over what we officially know. I'll try to be as brief as possible here, as I assume most people are aware of this stuff, and you've all had over a year to watch it, so yeah, let's be quick here. So most of the information we have is from the official trailer that was shown off at last year's E3. The trailer starts off with this glowy stuff some people have said reminds them of the twirly kind of stuff in Twilight Princess. We see some wall art that reminds me of this image from the first Breath of the Wild game, the ancient hero looking awfully Gerudo Ganondorf-like with that long red hair. We see Link and Zelda exploring a cave with these crystals, and they are riding some kind of creature. Zelda's got a haircut now, and her cape has the design that was on one of her dresses in the first Breath of the Wild. We see some of this purple stuff that reminds me of the Calamity Ganon energy from the first Breath of the Wild game. We also get a lot of quick cuts in this trailer, and what we are seeing doesn't seem to be chronological. It seems like they're messing around with that as they're showing these clips. It seems like a lot of these quick cuts are out of order. Link and Zelda find the source of that purple energy stuff. It appears to be the skeletal remains of Ganondorf with long red hair. Lots of interesting hairstyle changes this time around. And he appears to be held in place by this glowing energy hand. We see the Gerudo symbol on this skeleton Ganondorf. Link and Zelda appear to reach for each other's hands as if one of them is falling. We see Link's hand turn all glowy, looking a lot like that hand that was holding Ganondorf in place. I will note this concept art from the first Breath of the Wild, so potentially this hand will be an important game mechanic for Link, possibly replacing the Sheikah Slate from the first game. There's a shot of a more classic-looking dungeon entrance, and Link's hand appears to be grabbed by the glowy hand, which looks a lot like Skeleton Ganon's hand. There's some kind of earthquake involved here. Skeleton Ganon wakes up at one point, and he's got that forehead jewelry that looks the most similar to Twilight Princess Ganondorf's. Hyrule Castle appears to begin to float into the sky. We get a final shot of that glowy energy again, and we learn this is in fact a sequel to Breath of the Wild. And that's it. The trailer ends. Okay, so that's it. That's pretty much everything interesting in the trailer for Breath of the Wild 2, and we've only gotten minimum amounts of information for this game ever since. The biggest piece of information we've gotten outside of that trailer was this Game Informer interview with Enuma, where we learned it will be the same Hyrule, the same basic map from the first Breath of the Wild. Outside of learning we're going to be getting the same basic map here, other than that, a while back we heard from Rivali's Italian voice actor claiming that they had finished recording for the sequel, but that can be done well in advance for the finished games. So this doesn't necessarily indicate that the game's going to be released anytime soon. Alright, well that's pretty much everything we've heard about this game over the last year. There's lots of speculation about Link and Zelda exploring that cave system. Maybe a big cave system underneath Hyrule is going to be a big part of this game. Maybe they're going to add back in like the classic Zelda dungeons in some way using a giant cave system under Hyrule. There's speculation about the revived skeletal Ganondorf. Maybe he's going to become like a young Ganondorf or something, but that stuff's all just speculation. What I want to talk about today is 4 specific rumors that I've heard from fairly credible sources and speculate about those. Once again, just take these as rumors, so if they don't happen, don't blame me for sharing what I've heard with you guys. But also know I am filtering what info I'm hearing about this game, and only 4 of those things I've heard I believe might actually be real legitimate pieces of information for Breath of the Wild 2. Also, once again, I'm going to list them in the order of credibility of the sources that they're coming from. I'll be speculating after I list all 4 pieces of information, so don't mistake the speculation afterwards with the rumors themselves. If you don't want potential spoilers, stop watching now. Okay, ready? Here's the first rumor I've heard. It's pretty minor, but it's also coming from the most credible source out of these 4 rumors. So the first rumor is, the Ancient Soldier Mii costume that you get as a bonus for purchasing the second Fighter's Pass for Smash Ultimate is a reference to something yet to be revealed. The next rumor I've heard, and this one is far more interesting, is that the game will involve time travel, likely traveling between the present time, the time after the first Breath of the Wild game, the time we saw in the trailer, and a time before Calamity Ganon struck. The next rumor is something a lot of people are already speculating about, but I have also heard it specifically as a legit rumor, not just speculation. The third rumor is that Zelda will be playable in some form in Breath of the Wild 2. And finally, the last rumor I've heard, going along with the playable Zelda rumor, the game will feature co-op in some form. The last 2, despite being from the less credible sources of all these rumors, could still end up happening even if those sources of these rumors ended up being totally bogus, as they are already highly speculated about things. So playable Zelda co-op in this game could happen even if the rumors I heard about that are totally fake or something. Okay, so those are the 4 rumors I've heard themselves. Now I'm going to speculate about those 4 rumors, so don't get my speculation confused with the rumors themselves. Once again, this is just my speculation based on these rumors. Let's take a look at the first one. That the Ancient Soldier Mii costume that's showing up in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate might actually be a reference to something happening in Breath of the Wild 2. This rumor isn't the most interesting, but it is coming from a very credible source. It's also partly why I believe a Breath of the Wild 2 character might happen for Smash. This could point to the possibility that Sakurai is talking to the Breath of the Wild 2 team in some capacity. The ancient armor is already in the first Breath of the Wild game, so this isn't anything new we're seeing in Smash with this Mii costume. However, this rumor suggests it could be more important in the sequel in some way. Maybe Hyrule is being rebuilt and the castle guards have made armor out of the remains of the now defunct guardians around Hyrule. Maybe there's an enemy in the game that's a guard and wears the ancient armor or something like that. We could combine this with the second rumor, and maybe the ancient armor has something to do with the time travel. Maybe it has to be worn in order to travel through time or something. Or maybe the time traveling is going to involve going very far back to the time when the ancient Sheikah tech was more prevalent, and this ancient armor is going to be all over the place. Alright, so that said, let's talk about this second rumor, and this is by far the most interesting one I've heard. Again, do take it as just a rumor. These might not actually happen, but I have filtered which ones I've decided to talk about based on where they're coming from. So this might actually happen. Let's take a look. Could this game involve time travel? Time travel is nothing new to the Zelda series, but it would be new to Breath of the Wild. The first game did have a hint of this already with the memories, and a lot of the game was about connecting to Link's past. It might make sense to explore this concept further and more directly by adding actual time travel to the game. Many of the fan-favorite characters from the first game, the champions specifically, are dead. Also, Link and Zelda are like a century old at this point, and Zelda herself specifically has very little connection to the current world of Hyrule. So traveling back to the time before Calamity Ganon struck could be a way to re-involve those champion characters and also have a world Zelda's more familiar with. Also, some of the very old characters like Impa and Purah, it would be fun to see them in different time periods, see their younger selves as opposed to their older selves. Purah's younger self, of course, would have an older look to her than her older self, and the opposite for Impa, so that might be fun to play around with in some way. We also have a lot of missing storyline we only got glimpses of in those memories. Stuff like the Yiga clan and the resurrection of Calamity Ganon, and also it'd just be really cool to get to interact with some of those old champion characters, the ones we always only saw in memories. Even being able to finally interact with that old version of Hyrule we just saw glimpses of in all those memories would be very cathartic to fans of the first Breath of the Wild. That is, of course, if time traveling is between the time period after the first Breath of the Wild game back to the time when Link and Zelda are sort of from, the time before Calamity Ganon struck Hyrule. The time all those memories are from, all the champions are from. However, it could be, instead, if time travel is a part of this game, it might actually be going to a different time period, one we haven't seen at all. Possibly we'd go even further back, maybe to the days of ancient Sheikah Tech or something like that. Regardless, time travel would solve one major issue Breath of the Wild 2 needs to address: the map. If this game is using the same basic map layout of Breath of the Wild, using that same Hyrule, then it's going to have to make some changes in order for exploration, arguably the best part of Breath of the Wild, to be fun again. Some people have speculated that Hyrule might be different after Calamity Ganon was defeated. Maybe the towns are being rebuilt and stuff. So, the layout might be a little different. Also, we could have like an underground area or something, which could add back these sorely missed dungeons from older Zeldas. Also, of course, that earthquake we saw, whatever was happening when Hyrule Castle appeared to lift into the air, that could be affecting the overall map. But time travel would greatly increase the exploration factor. We'd essentially have twice as much new area to explore, two unique versions of Hyrule, which would make re-exploring the Breath of the Wild map with new content twice as fun. Also, time travel adds some very interesting puzzle mechanics. Some of the best parts about Ocarina of Time or Majora's Mask have to do with the puzzles involving time travel. With two different time periods comes two different maps, and this could be very similar to what was going on with A Link to the Past with the Light and Dark World. Again, very interesting Zelda puzzle mechanics come out of that sort of thing. Some of my favorite puzzles involve these dual worlds that have been in past Zelda games. Let's add this time travel rumor with the next rumor, the possibility of a playable Zelda. What if Link is in one time period and Zelda is in the other? What if you have to swap between time periods and characters with different gameplay mechanics to solve puzzles or something? Also, if one of the time periods was relatively safe without being full of monsters and stuff, you could keep Zelda strictly puzzle-oriented in that time period, while Link could be in the time where there's enemies swarming Hyrule. This could be a great way to keep Zelda true to her characterization as not being a fighter, but still have her as a playable character exploring a less dangerous Hyrule, solving puzzles to help Link in the dangerous time period. On that note, let's talk about playable Zelda. So this is highly speculated about already, but I have heard it as a rumor as well, not just as speculation. Mostly this concept of Zelda being playable as speculation has sprung up from the fact she has short hair now and canonically is no longer trapped in Hyrule Castle, so she's got to be doing something this game. The fact Zelda has short hair now could point to a playable Zelda because this would make giving her costumes much easier, more so than if she still had her long hair from the first game. In the first Breath of the Wild game, there are 3 armor spots, one of which is for headgear. A character with long hair is tough to add helmets and hoods and stuff for. So if Zelda was playable, we'd assume she'd have outfits and things just like Link, being able to collect different armors, and giving her a haircut would make adding those pieces of armor much easier without her hair clipping through the helmets or capes and stuff. Also, if Link is in fact getting some new hand-based mechanic, it's possible Zelda could be the one using the Sheikah Slate. So there'd be an interesting way of having completely new gameplay as Link, while keeping the Sheikah Slate mechanics in the game still, but also keeping them fresh by having them now in the hands of Zelda, who may play differently than Link. And then the last rumor I've heard, the one about the game possibly being co-op in some form, ties in with the other rumor about Zelda being playable. The Switch itself is very co-op focused. That was a selling point initially, that you had two Joy-Cons attached to it all the time for co-op play. Breath of the Wild 1 was developed for the Wii U, so the idea of having these two Joy-Cons at all time probably wasn't thought about too much until late in development. We've seen series that don't normally have co-op get this added with their Switch titles, such as Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee, for instance. So implementing some kind of two-player experience in Breath of the Wild 2 is something I could totally see happening. If there is in fact a playable Zelda character in this game in some form, it would be fun to explore Hyrule with a friend. We already talked a bit about the puzzle-solving stuff that could come with two different playable characters, and that could be even more interesting if you had a buddy where you're actually controlling each of these characters separately while playing together. Alright guys, well that's everything I wanted to talk about today. I've just had Breath of the Wild and Zelda in general on my mind lately, and I felt I'd share those rumors I've heard just in case we actually get some Breath of the Wild 2 information revealed very soon here, possibly at that rumored Nintendo Direct that could be happening next week. If you guys enjoyed this Zelda-focused content, I'd love to do more of it in the future. Honestly, I have a lot of ideas for what I'd like to see in Breath of the Wild 2, just things I'd want to have happen, changes from the first game. So if you guys are interested in a video like that, let me know. If you guys have any thoughts about those 4 specific rumors I talked about, or if you think we're going to get a Nintendo Direct next week or not, or if you think Breath of the Wild 2 stuff could even be shown in that Direct or not, whatever's on your mind, let me know in the comments below. So once again, thank you guys for all the subscribes, all the likes. It really helps out the channel. So if you haven't subscribed yet, go ahead and do so, or like the video, or leave a comment, whatever you want. Until next time, have a good one.